So this is the first footage that we have from this project. As you can see, it's running at 2000 FPS, which is a lot. So we're drawing basically everything in the CPU. We have a texture that we draw to it, and then we apply a post-processing effect. This effect is made by a fragment shader that's running on the GPU. It's also hot reloadable. So here I'm trying to do a motion blur effect. So right now what we have in the rendering pipeline, we basically render to a texture and then render this texture to the screen. So what you can see is that first we have the current texture, and then we have the previous texture, and we draw it over the current, so it gives it this effect. So right now we want to have different shaders for the different render passes that we have, because we have the first render pass that we render to a texture, and then we render this texture to the screen, and we want to have different shaders doing these things. So now that we are using different shaders for the two render passes, we want to implement a motion blur effect. We are going to do this by having this frame buffer texture that is going to accumulate previous render passes, and we will use this texture as an input to a fragment shader. So we draw the texture and use it as an input to itself later. So this is the main idea, but right now it's not really working. So you're going to open the fragment shader. Oh, that's the vertex. So the fragment shader, and we're going to try to implement a simple displacement over the previous frames. So as you can see, right on the top, we have the uniforms, main texture, and the old frame. And the interesting thing is that the old frame was drawn by the GPU, and the main frame, the main texture, was drawn by the CPU. And in the fragment shader, we combine these two textures, so we can draw it to the screen. So right now it's not working. As you can see, this displacement is just a pink thing. Also, other thing that you can see is the hot reloading of shaders. So the shader, we just have to write the file, and our programmers will try to reload it on the fly. So right now, just to debug, we are going to draw the frame buffer. Like we are going to accumulate it over itself. We are not using the texture drawn by the CPU. And as you can see, the desired effect is really working. So I have no idea why this is working, and if we use this texture drawn by the CPU, it's not working. But it's pretty trippy, the effect that it generates. So after a while, I realized what was going on, and it's working for the first time. As you can see, it's drawing with a displacement, and yes, I changed the parameter on the fragment shader, and now it's doing this crazy thing that is accumulating. I think this was a pretty nice effect.